Hello and welcome to episode 39 of the Mr. Douglas Sports Show. I am your host as always, Corey Douglas. And earlier this week, the deal that I thought would never get done actually got done. A day before Dak Prescott was scheduled to be franchise tagged, the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott finally came to a long-term deal. The deal is for 4 years, $160 million. And on this show, I just want to go over the details of the deal, my initial reactions to the deal, what it means for the Cowboys salary cap ramifications, and then who won the deal. So let's just get it started right off the bat with the details of this contract. So you're looking at a 4-year, $160 million contract. That is $40 million per season. The maximum value could be up to $164 million. He gets a $66 million signing bonus, which is the most in NFL history. Russell Wilson previously had the most at 65, so he surpassed that. He gets $126 million guaranteed the first 3 years. That is an average of $42 million per season. He gets a no trade clause. He gets a no tag provision. So we won't do this song and dance again in 4 years when he's up for his next contract. And let's be honest, he'll probably, if he plays good football and the Cowboys are still heading in the direction that they believe that Dak Prescott is the quarterback, he'll be right back at the table in 3 years. And that is when the new TV money will have kicked in at that point. So he is going to get another bag at that point, assuming health and good play. So my initial reaction when I first saw the deal was I was shocked. Because everything, all signs point to this not being the case. All the signs pointed to the Cowboys and the Dak Prescott not being able to come to an agreement. And that would have led to the franchise tag on Tuesday. And then they would have been able to continue working on a deal until July 15th. When ultimately either the Cowboys would have to sign him to a long-term deal. Or Dak plays this year out on a $37.7 million contract. And eventually probably leads to Dak Prescott heading out the door next year in free agency. But because they come to an agreement, it's ultimately a great thing just as far as the salary cap goes. So the salary cap hit, like I mentioned a second ago, it would have been $37 million, all guaranteed. That's the cap hit, simple as that. But now, because of the way the Cowboys structured the deal, and like I said, it's 4 years, $160 million, but they did add 2 additional voidable years at the end of it, which basically doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. It just means that the Cowboys have somewhere to dump some money to even out the cap hit. So for this year, he will have a cap hit of $22.2 million. And because the salary cap went down from $198 last year to $182 this year, it definitely helps the Cowboys in that. And then the Cowboys were also able to restructure deals of Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, and Lyle Collins to free up $17 million of cap room, which gives them a little flexibility to go out and play a little bit in free agency. I still don't expect them to play at the top of the market in free agency, but I definitely would expect them to be able to add a piece or two on that defense. I think that's where they would head towards. There's some names out there. We'll get to that as free agency inches closer. Free agency actually does start next week, where they call it the tampering period. Starts March 15th, and then players can officially start signing deals next Wednesday on the 17th. So then that leads me to who won this deal, the Cowboys or Dak Prescott? And to me, from the outside looking in and just looking at all the details that have come out, I have to say Dak Prescott and his agent Todd France, they took the Cowboys and Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones right behind the woodshed, and they got over on them. And I guess the main focal point that forms that opinion is that Dak Prescott got everything he wanted. He wanted a 4-year deal. He got a no trade clause. He can't be tagged again based off the no tag provision. He gets a lot of money guaranteed, and he gets $40 million per season, which puts him right in line, right behind Patrick Mahomes as the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. But that doesn't mean that the Cowboys didn't win in some aspects of it. So obviously they win just because they have a quarterback, and this is a league dominated by quarterbacks. If you have no quarterback, you have no chance to win. So of course the Cowboys win from that aspect, and they were also able to structure the contract to where it allows them to maybe play a little bit more in free agency than they have in previous years. So they both won some angles of this deal, but I would say that by a landslide, Dak Prescott definitely got more of a benefit than than the Cowboys did. And that leads me to some things that I've been hearing just from different media personalities that are around the Cowboys that have more access than I personally do. And that is the perception of Stephen Jones as a general manager. And based off what those people say, Stephen Jones' peers don't look at him very highly. They, in fact, look at him as he doesn't really know what he's doing, and that things are going to get worse as the more and more control he gets. So, and I think there's not a point more clear than when he starts getting into these negotiations with contracts. I mean, it's just year after year after year, you're dealing with something on the Cowboys related to a contract situation. A couple years ago, they franchise tagged DeMarcus Lawrence. He plays on the tag. He's excited about it. They franchise tag him the second year, and he's not happy about it anymore. And because he needs a shoulder surgery, he holds off the surgery until they can come to a long-term agreement. So again, Stephen Jones got worked on that deal. He tries to play hardball and ends up, crawling back to the table and gives the guys everything they want. You look at Ezekiel Elliott, same thing. Doesn't show up to training camp last season, goes to Cabo, works out until he gets that deal. But he became the highest paid running back in the league. Stephen Jones, once again, tried to play hardball with that. Didn't work. Z got everything he wanted. You look at Jalen Smith. He said we have an open door policy as far as contracts before last season. Jalen Smith said, all right, I'm in there. Gets paid way quicker or way sooner than he should have been. And still to this day, Jalen Smith should not have been given that contract. His play on the field has not been good. And when you're pairing him with an often injured Leighton Vander Esch, the linebacker situation is a mess. You look at Stephen Jones' approach in free agency. I touched on that just a second ago, but let's dive a little bit more into it. When you play at the bottom of the free agent market, it does not work. These guys are free agents for a reason. So I'm going to run off 4 or 5 names from last season. Clinton Dix, Darryl Worley, Everson Griffin, Dontari Poe. All of those guys were free agent additions last season for the Dallas Cowboys. You know what all those guys have in common? Oh, you can even throw Gerald McCoy in. All those guys that I just mentioned, they have in common that they did not finish the season with the Dallas Cowboys. Those were the Cowboys' big free agent additions. Couldn't even make the squad. In Clinton Dix's case, couldn't make the squad. In Gerald McCoy's case, didn't make the squad due to injury. So I think that's a lot of what we've been saying the last couple of years is Stephen Jones is playing hardball. He really strongly believes in signing his own, but I think it's coming at a cost and it's not benefiting the team with some of the decisions he's made. But yeah, that's just the perception around the league of Stephen Jones. They think that the Cowboys organization is going down the more and more involved he gets. So, like I mentioned, the franchise tag deadline was on Tuesday. So I want to go ahead and move off the Cowboys and around to more around the NFL. Some notable names that did get the franchise tag on Tuesday. In Tampa Bay, Chris Godwin got the franchise tag. Tampa Bay's been strong about having the same core back for next season to try to repeat as Super Bowl champions. So they keep Chris Godwin on the franchise tag. Tampa Bay also signed Levante David to a 2-year deal earlier this week. So they're making progress towards keeping that squad together. In Chicago, Allen Robinson gets the franchise tag. And I hated this for Allen Robinson because he is one of the best receivers in the league. He's one of the most consistent receivers in this league, and he has never played with a quarterback. So I was hoping he would be able to hit the market and be able to choose his next destination. But Chicago places the franchise tag, so he'll be in Chicago. The Jets placed a franchise tag on safety Marcus May. This was notable to me because this is a name that the Cowboys could have potentially got involved with in free agency because they have a need at safety, obviously. The Saints, another safety, Marcus Williams, they placed a franchise tag on him to keep him around. So those are the four notable names that I had that did get franchise tag. And now let's get to some of the notable names that did not get franchise tag. Starting with running back Aaron Jones in Green Bay. Obviously, Green Bay drafted A.J. Dillon last season. The writing was kind of on the wall with this one. I don't think Aaron Jones will be back, although reports say that the Packers are still trying to work out a long-term deal with Aaron Jones. Kenny Gallaudet, receiver from the Detroit Lions, did not receive the franchise tag. I think he'll be a hot commodity in free agency. I could see a team like Baltimore going after him. I could see a team like the New York Giants going after him. And like I said, I think he'll have a good market. Running back Chris Carson from Seattle did not receive the franchise tag. It's going to be interesting to see because he's not at the top level of the running back position. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of contract he gets. Also in Seattle, Shaquille Griffin, one of their top cornerbacks, did not receive the franchise tag. He'll hit the open market. This is another name where I could see hopefully maybe the Cowboys get involved with because they have a strong need at corner. And just by the way, I am going to get to a lot of the kind of the needs and kind of what I'm aiming for the draft next month a little bit later on, not today's episode, but later down the road. Hunter Henry in Los Angeles for the Chargers did not get the franchise tag. I think he'll have somewhat of a heavy market for him. I could see him in New England, for instance. They need weapons for whatever quarterback that they're going to have next season. And then also tight end Jonnu Smith did not receive the franchise tag from the Titans. And I love that for Jonnu Smith because they did not use him right after a hot start to the 2020 season. So hopefully he finds a home where, with a good quarterback and a good offensive system where they can really use his athletic ability. And then because the salary cap is going down, you've also seen notable cuts, veteran cuts. So I'm just going to run down a few of the notable ones I noticed. So the Saints cut veteran receiver Emmanuel Sanders. And part of me believes that Emmanuel Sanders might not be too upset about that because I don't think when he went to New Orleans, he thought the situation was going to go the way it went as far as Drew Brees just being completely washed and on his way out. The Titans released veteran cornerback Malcolm Butler. He'll probably have a nice little, he'll have a lot of suitors after him. Also in Tennessee, Kenny Vaccaro got cut. Dolphins, they cut Kyle Van Noy after just signing him to a long-term deal last offseason, so he's gone. The Bills cut wide receiver John Brown. I think with some of obviously the emergence of Stephon Diggs, and then you have veteran Cole Beasley there, that makes a lot of sense. And then the Chiefs, we saw what they did in the Super Bowl with no offensive tackles, and both of their starting offensive tackles going into last season both got cut this week. So this free agency period is going to be crazy. I don't think you'll see a lot of the long-term deals that you might be accustomed to at the very beginning of free agency just because the salary cap is kind of in limbo and it obviously went down $16 million per season. You have some teams like the Saints and Eagles that are way over the salary cap, so they're having to cut guys just to even get to the salary cap. So like I said, this next week's going to be interesting. So we'll see what happens, and I'll be back with you next week to break it all down, along with looking ahead to March Madness and looking ahead to the NBA trade deadline. So speaking of the NBA, I do want to dive into a little bit of that. So obviously the NBA season restarted for the second half on Wednesday. They had 2 games there, full slate on Thursday. So we're going to get back into the swing of things pretty quick. Just want to give my quick thoughts on All-Star Weekend. We'll start with, the skills competition. I picked Julius Randle, and he didn't even make it out of the first round. Domantas Sabonis ended up beating him. He beat Luka in the second round. Luka didn't even take off his warm-ups. And then he beat Nikolai Vucevic in the finals, and what was a great matchup. And one thing I found out after the skills competition was that Sabonis was the only player out of the pool that actually warmed up, and it obviously paid off for him as he won. And I think my favorite contest of the weekend I think this is the contest that I was most excited about going into it, and it actually lived up to the hype. And that was the 3-point shootout, or the 3-point contest. Steph Curry wins, called it. Mike Conley actually put up a great fight, and Steph Curry was able to edge him out by 1. And I feel like Steph Curry was kind of toying with Mike Conley. You know, Mike Conley comes out, puts up 27. Steph Curry comes out, misses his first 4 shots, and then still is able to win that contest. And then the dunk contest was awful. Anthony Simons ended up winning it, which salute to him, the first trailblazer to ever win the dunk contest, which is pretty cool, I guess, for him. And then we get to the game. The game started out like all-star games do. No defense being played, a bunch of dunks, a lot of threes. But I think the thing I enjoyed most about the all-star game was the back and forth that Steph and Dame had by shooting half-court threes. And I think my favorite moment of the game was Steph Curry. So I showed some love to Steph Curry earlier in the program, but now I'm going to get to my Steph Curry hate, because you know, he's known for the showboating and everything. So he tried to call game to, you know, send Team LeBron to the win. And he missed the half-court 3. Dame gets it the next possession, comes down, pulls up from half-court, drains it, game over. Dame Dollar ends it. So I really enjoyed that, because Steph Curry wasn't the one to end it. Dame Dollar was. And we know what Dame's resume is as a clutch performer. So you can add that to under his belt there. And then enough of the All-Star game. Let's get to some of the headlines that are going on right now. Obviously, Blake Griffin gets bought out in Detroit, heads to Brooklyn. And I got to be honest with you, I don't see all the hype around Blake Griffin. The dude is averaging 12 points and shooting just a terrible percentage from the field. And he's lost his athletic ability. He hasn't completed a dunk since 2019. But at the same time, I know his role in Brooklyn won't be very large. So maybe at this point in his career, he can fulfill the needs that Brooklyn has. Although I'm not convinced of that. And then on Wednesday night, before the Mavs took on the Spurs in Dallas, Greg Popovich announces that LaMarcus Aldridge is no longer with the team, and they are working a way to find a trade partner for him, because they'd rather trade him versus buying him out, which makes complete sense. But I think I want to see LaMarcus Aldridge in Portland, going back home. I know the relationship with him and Dame didn't start off well, but they've since amended that relationship. So I would like to see LaMarcus Aldridge go back there. If the Mavs were able to pull off a move, I wouldn't be mad at that either. But I don't see that happening. I think he ends up in Portland or somewhere else to finish out this season. That is going to do it for episode 39 of the Mr. Douglas Sports Show. I'm getting out of here. Until next time, salute.